Hello everybody, welcome to Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm working to restore history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be looking at the 1934-35, not sure which year it is, I think it's a 35, Grunow model 1151. It's an 11 tube set. I purchased it about 2.5 years ago. I actually gave you guys a view of it about a week after I bought it, which was also about a week after I bought the RCA 11K console, and I did a little video on it at that time. Let me run you a sequence from that video for you to look at right now, and then we'll go from there. And this is the one I was actually planning on doing next. This is the 1935 Grunow 11B 1151, and I've already got the innards out of it. The cabinet is actually in very nice shape. The only problem with this cabinet is down in the lower corners, the veneer is off. You have to have a little bit of veneer work done in each of the corners, and then right there in the middle there's a little piece missing there. And there's a little divot right here and right here. But other than the veneer, I wouldn't really do anything with this. Some Murphy's oil soap on it maybe. It's got some beautiful grain in the wood. So we've got this choice. And I'll show you the insides, because the insides are out. There's no grill cloth. This is the speaker and the chassis for the 1935 Grunow. It's actually not in half bad shape. It's very heavy here. Let's put this around. Speaker has a big rip in it, but I think it could be easily fixed. And this is the chassis. It's an 11 tube chassis. Information is very limited on this radio. Okay, so after seeing that, if you guys remember that, that's what we're going to be working on now. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's been 2.5 years since I got that. I remembered it was big and heavy. I had remembered testing a couple components on it that tested okay. The speaker is pretty ratty. It's actually more ratty now because it's been moved around a few times. And with my shop being renovated, it got moved into here, which is why I decided to work on it, because it's staring at me. So I think we're going to get started with it. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I decided that I wasn't going to video anything if it wasn't going to work out, as far as if there was something bad on it, like a bad transformer. So I did some transformer checks. I checked the input transformer, I checked the power transformer, I checked the field coil, I checked the voice coil, and I checked the IF transformers, and everything was checking out good. And at that point is when I decided I was going to start videoing and starting with the capacitors, because we all know we got to change the filter capacitors right off the bat. So that's where I'm going to start. I didn't film any of the checks of those components, but you're just going to take my word for it. They checked okay. As a matter of fact, I powered up, after I did the resistance checks, I powered up the transformer, the main transformer, and checked it for voltages, and the voltages were right where they needed to be. So anyway, we're going to pick up with the capacitors, and that's where we're going to start this video, was with the capacitors. So grab yourself a drink and sit back, and we'll watch this first episode. Okay, so let's take a quick look around the top of this radio. It's all intact, and all the tube shields are in place, and that's a good thing. I'd gone through and I'd numbered some of these components based on the part list, and so if you see the numbers, that's what that is. Tuning condenser's kind of crudded up. The wiring's not that great. This little can right here, this is a capacitor can that we're going to have to tackle. this can here. This is a capacitor can we're going to have to tackle. This particular one has 6 different capacitors in it, so that'll be interesting. This is a choke, a filter choke here in this can, and it tested good. Of course, we got this massive power output transformer, and it all tested good. Here's one of our filter capacitors. There's supposed to be one behind it, but it's missing. It was missing when I got the radio. So we're going to start off, I think, with this little capacitor can here. Let's get that one going. Okay, so this is that 27715 capacitor can. It's got 2 capacitors in it, electrolytic capacitors, a 4 microfarad at 350 volts and a 8 microfarad at 100 volts. We're going to take this can apart, and I'm in the process right now of printing an insert that'll hold the 2 new capacitors. Here's the 2 new capacitors. So there'll be the 2 leads coming through the top. They'll both ground through the case. Or let me rephrase that. The negatives will both go to the case. And we'll see what we get when we get that apart. Should come apart fairly easily. It looks like some tabs there. Let me show you the schematic where this is at in the circuit. Okay, so this is the rectifier tube here, and here's one electrolytic, wet electrolytic. It's an 8, another one that's an 8, and then we move over here, and this is the dry one. We're getting ready to restuff the 4 and the 8, and they're tying into the resistor bank on the side, which I'll show you in the radio here in a minute. I'm going to have to rebuild that because it's open circuit. Okay, let's see if we can get this can open. That's something to get this started with. Let's see, we'll start maybe with this. Now we should be able to get these lifted up. Don't want to go too far because I don't want to have them break off when I bend them back. I have my printer in the background printing up my insert. And of course my furnace is going to kick on and make noise. There we go. Alright, so unfortunately this looks like this is going to be a tar one. So I can either put it in the freezer, or I can heat it up and see if I can get it to pull out, possibly. It's cracked. Oh, I was going to show you guys, I tested this just to make sure, because I've heard stories that it's okay and all that sort of stuff. Let me show you what we have. If I can get this thing where you can see it. Let's go on the black one first, the black lead. And we'll take it to the case. Get this thing where you guys can see it. So this one's testing as a 51 PF capacitor instead of a 4 or 8. And this one is testing as a 28.43 megohm resistor. So obviously it's bad, which is why I got to restuff it. Alright, I haven't decided how I'm going to get this out of here yet. Probably going to heat it. I'm not going to show you guys that. I'll bring you back in a minute. Alright, started getting it apart. The tar was just skin deep. They're actually in 2 containers there. Here's the first capacitor, got it out. The other one's still in there, I'll get it out. Yep, fully dried, rotten, and corroded. Nastiness. And there's the tie point where it's soldered to the can. And there's the printer printing away my new insert. Okay, I thought I'd show you guys something that's a little interesting here. So when we look at these 2 electrolytic capacitors that I'm in the process of changing in this box, typically on electrolytic capacitors you have your positive and your negative, and it's very important in the direction you put them. The 8, as you notice here, it actually has the positive and it's going to positive, okay, and the negative is actually going to the negative side of the cand-ohm resistor section there, and it actually does that through the metal can of the case. The 4, on the other hand here, the positive is actually connected to the negative of the 8 and the can, and the negative is going off in the other direction there. And the reason that is because that 4 microfarad is the filter capacitor for the bias supply, which is negative, and that's why it is connected in that orientation. But I thought I'd show you guys that because it's a little bit different. Okay, so here's the insert that I 3D printed for this can. It'll slide into the can. There is the negative wire to the can, already in there from the original capacitors. And so here is my 4 microfarad that the negative is going to go out into the radio, and the positive going down to connect to this wire here, the negative to the chassis. So that'll go in there like that. And then here is a 10. Called for an 8 in the drawing, which I don't have any 8s, but I had a 10, 450 volt. I take that back. This is on 160 volt 10, and this is a 450 volt 4. It called for a 350 volt on the 4 and a 100 for the 10, so we're doing 450 and 160. So this one will go in here like that. They'll push on down. These will get soldered together. They get soldered to this one. This will go in the can, and then the lid will go on top. I'll solder some wires onto these, and that's what this path is for. This one's wire will come across, and then they'll both come out this little hole here. Let me get that done, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've got the ground, the negative soldered here. When I push this down, this is going to feed into the slot. That one's already been run over. Just going to push it together. that. I'll have to drill that hole out just a little bit bigger. I'll bring it back. Okay, so that's what it looks like all done. I think it turned out really nice. Let's hook it up and check it electrically. Negative to the case. This should be the 4.7. I said 4, it was 4 on the schematic, but I put a 4.7 in it because that's all I had. Come up as 5.45, and then we'll go to the other one, which was a 10 microfarad, and it's coming up as 9.4241. So electrically, it's good. Okay, so I got the filter condenser can put back in, and now we're getting ready to attack that big 8 microfarad condenser that was right in that spot right there. Fresh memory, this one right here. Bolted in there. So I got it out. We're going to recap it. But I was also going to show you, I also got the actual line filter condensers replaced. That's those in there. Those are making up for this one here. This big one. And the one that was missing beside it, that's what's still the hole right there. So replaced that one and that one, or now that one and that one. Right there, the red lead and the black lead are the condenser can that I just replaced and restuffed. Come up through that hole right there. So now we're getting ready to restuff that one. And I'll show you that.